from South Africa.
Now it's time for my favorite segment, my baby actually, Educational Insights. And today I'm so pleased because I'm speaking to somebody who shares my passion for ECD, early childhood development. And I have with me, joining me in live is going to be Sister Zakhirah Masekoameng, and she works at the Department of Social Development. She's an early childhood development practitioner as well as the founder of Hillside Learning Academy and facilitator of the Developmental Girls Conversation, which deals with behavioral modification program for young girls. So I'm so pleased to welcome Sister Zakhirah, and then joining me is Brother Muhammad Musa from Ashraful Aid, because Sister Zakhirah actually sent an appeal to Brother Ponti in terms of, because of COVID, for the Early Childhood Development Center, there was a specific need that she required, and then through networking and facilitating, Alhamdulillah, the Almighty used Brother Muhammad Musa and Ashraful Aid in support of Sister Zakhirah's Early Childhood Development Center, the Hillside Learning Academy. So I'd like to welcome both Sister Zakhirah and Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Salam Media Educational Insights, Sister Zakhirah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for having me.
And assalamu alaikum to yourself, Brother Muhammad from Ashraful Aid, and Jazakallah for joining us here on Salam Media. Okay, so Sister Zakhirah, I'm always in awe of somebody who works in the space and who has their heart in early childhood development, because for me, that is the most impressionable, vital age in terms of developing our youngsters, because that is the time, it's known as the formative developmental years, when the brain is open, alive to possibilities, learning, all domains of learning. And this is a time when, if given the correct facilitation and intervention, it sets the foundation for future learning activities, the early childhood development phase. So please, can you tell me, where does your passion for ECD commence, when it started?
Okay. Personally, I'm somebody who loves working with children very much. As in my career being a social worker, I've managed to work very closely with children, but also I'm somebody who's very passionate with education. So the moment I had my own daughter, I realized that I need an ECD center that will be able to serve my needs as a working mother, that will be able to serve my need as a mother who is a Muslim, who will want her daughter to be in an ECD center where she can be able to learn all the current ECD curricula and also be able to learn and understand her Islamic knowledge. So when I started Hillside Learning Academy, I was actually inspired by my daughter and my love for education and just generally my love for children.
Sister Zakhirah, when you speak about this, it takes me back to my very own journey, because once I qualified in educator, I then decided to study further on and specialize in childhood development. And I'm a practitioner, and I focus on 4-year-old children specifically because at that time, my daughter had turned 4, and I needed to go out to, that time it wasn't termed as early childhood development, but at the nursery school, in terms of observing 4-year-olds, in terms of all the domains of development and that. And I also decided, you know what, I moved in an area that was a former white area now, and there wasn't anything in terms of Islamic offering. And as we know, normative component of your learning is where you inculcate your religious values, your moral values, and that. And there was nothing to bring out that Islamic ethos and guide them then, which is so required. So I decided myself as well, why not get a few friends together, get a few 4-year-olds together, and I can study and observe them. And Alhamdulillah, that's how my own journey began in terms of studying a 4-year-old and my passion. So it's so heartwarming that I feel I met somebody else who was studying to do something, but their children got them into this area in this
Yeah,
career path.
true.
Alhamdulillah. And let me say, because the thing is important that while we have ECD as Muslims, we have facilities where we're going to acknowledge the Islamic ethos, the normative component. Definitely, it's that way Islamic values fit in. And Islam, alhamdulillah, is a way of life, and it's so practical. So you will see even in your ECD module training, everything they guide you is actually what Islam guides you. So it's a ECD, and Islam is a perfect blueprint. I always say the blueprint is there, and we just need to implement it. And as you get further along, you don't even have to just teach in, you know, this is our Islamic ring now, this is our cognitive ring. You interact because Islam is a way
Mm,
of life. So have you
true.
found that in your experience, especially with early child development?
Yes, definitely. I did. I did a lot because look, as much as we say Islam is a way of life, I believe that it's very important from a very early stages of a child's life. It's part of their identity. They need to understand themselves that they are Muslims and the reason why we do things in a certain way. So our children here understand why they need to pray before they eat their food. They understand why do they need to to observe certain protocols that are needed to be observed because they are Muslim children. They understand they need to go to when they go to the toilet, they need to use the right food, they need to make certain du'as before doing certain things. So those are little basics that I feel they are very important in a child's life. Before we can even take our child to madrasa at an ECD center that provides children with the basic Islamic studies, it's very important in a way that when we get into the house and we start performing salah as a family, the child understands what is this. The child is able to join in. And, it has been so great in a sense that I've got parents who are like single mothers who stay with their children who are Muslims. And they tell me that their children are even able to lead them in salah now because, they know how to perform salah. They understand their du'as, they understand their surahs from a tender age of 4 to 5 year old. So it's becoming so great. Our children understand their identity and their love for Islam grows every day deeper and deeper because they are learning Islam at a very early tender age. When they get home, they get to now implement what we've taught them. And like you said, Islam is a way of life. It's very good for us to teach them the way of life from a very early stage in their lives.
And you touch on something that's very important because this is the age as well in early childhood development is a child is developing their sense of identity, who they are
Mm,
in relation to the community, in relation to the family, in relation to society at large. And that is why for me, it's so fundamental that where you have the resources in terms of sending your child to an Islamic early childhood development center, at that stage you choose to do this because as somebody who is in childhood development, specializes in childhood development, in terms of developing your identity of yourself, it needs to be, when you enter an educational institution, it needs to be a continuation of the home values, the home way of life, and the practices at home. So otherwise, there's disconstruct, and the child then develops parallel identities. This is my identity at home as a Muslim family. And then when I go out and I'm in an institution that's non-Islamic, I have to develop a parallel or alternative identity to who I am. And sometimes that identity comes to the fore almost because you're embarrassed because you might be a minority in terms of you being Muslim there. So you sort of shun, and it affects your confidence now because you can't speak openly of your home experiences, your home rituals, what you do, your du'as, and that you have to put it to the back and sort of hide who you are as a Muslim. And that is why I always encourage
mhm,
parents at an early age, please seek out, even if you have to travel a distance, but seek out, especially in the early formative years, an educational system that ascribes to the values and norms and way of life is the home because there's continuation and you assist your child to develop a strong identity of who they
mm,
are. And the values are aligned. The home values are aligned to the educational values that because education can't be divorced of moral and values. That is what education is, leading a child towards responsible adulthood, which from the outset, that is the main criteria, not about acquiring knowledge and content knowledge that they can get anyway. Today we Google and our children know how to navigate our phones and they can pick up any information that they want, but it is the inherent norms and values that we instill with the children. And I'm so pleased that the children now are making an impression where whatever is taught to them, you can see they have a fundamental understanding and they've comprehended so much so that they're going home and they're implementing, especially in homes with single parents or parents that are newly revert. It's actually children that are leading the way. And mashallah, I have to congratulate you in doing so. But now, COVID comes with it new challenges. And then you realize, because, to set up an ECD center is really, really financially challenging in terms of the equipment you need, the resource. And this is just the educational equipment. I mean, you need good resources, so it takes a lot of investment. And then also the reality is, especially somewhere where you set up, parents don't have that income to be able to pay you fees that will then allow you to invest in these resources. So it's always a struggle to get the best resources, but you're not getting the income in terms of purchasing this. So you have that challenge, but then your added challenge was now you needed PPE, you needed sanitizing equipment, you needed screens in it. And I know I share this because I too in that position in terms of face shields and that. And incidentally, World Health Organization has just now actually stated for children under the age of 5, face masks are no longer recommended, but face shields or because it's affecting breathing and children cannot communicate or verbalize. If they're having difficulty breathing, they might itch or they might say they're feeling dizzy or that, but they might not necessarily say, I'm having difficulty to breathe. So because they might not necessarily verbalize what they're feeling, visors are better, but this comes as a cost in parents are already struggling, so they can't afford the cost. So tell us a little bit about this, and then I'm going to bring Brother Mohammed in terms of how they decided to aid you.
Yes. Okay. So since the COVID-19 pandemic, we like all other ECD centers, we had to shut down when the president announced that all ECDs and schools need to shut down. So from that moment in March when we closed down, the center didn't have any form of income, because even parents themselves started voicing out the challenges that they had. Some of them lost their jobs. Some of them were maybe working 2 times in a week. So their income were just negatively impacted by the pandemic. So now that ECD centers were now given the permission to reopen, I had to then go out and ask for assistance so we can also be able to open. We open in a responsible way where we are able to have all PPEs in place, all sanitizers, masks, and the screens for the children. So to protect ourselves as the practitioners and also to protect the children against the pandemic, because COVID is still there, it is around us. So we always need to take all necessary precautions. So I wrote to Salam Media asking for assistance, and that's when then I was linked to Ashraful Aid, and Alhamdulillah they came forth and tried to assist us in most of what we needed. So we were assisted with sanitizers, we were assisted with hand washing liquids, with aprons, with masks, and the screens for the children. So and also our premises were fully sanitized before we welcome the children. So today we are confident that we are now going to be compliant with all the COVID-19 regulation in terms of PPE, in terms of sanitization of the center, sanitization of the children in the premises. Their masks are covered. So Alhamdulillah, it was a really good help if you can see, mostly in the country, a lot of ECD centers are being closed down because of the negative financial impact that COVID-19 has had on us. But with the help of Salam Media and Ashraful Aid, Alhamdulillah, Hillside Learning Academy will continue to operate even under these difficult circumstances. Yeah.
Mashallah, like I say, Allah uses people in various means and capacities. And like you say, you reach out. And that's what essentially Salam Media is, to create a platform and a platform and a foundation to link and network various organizations. And Brother Ponti sent me your appeal at that time. And then, Alhamdulillah, I think he was so pleased when Ashraful Aid came on board to say, they're going to assist you. And I want to bring Brother Muhammad there because I know one of the projects and intentions of Ashraful Aid is to support education, especially Islamic education of our future generation. So Jazakallah for Brother Muhammad for coming today. The aid was given and you visited the premises. So how was your experience?
Alhamdulillah. First off, we'd like to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us the opportunity to be of service to our communities, especially during the pandemic and time that we are in. It was an amazing experience to go there today to meet with Abba Zakhirah as well as the kids that were there. They were all very excited to be at school, back at school. They were very excited to see their friends. And they were all very excited to learn as well. They had some classes while we were there, and it was quite amazing to watch. Alhamdulillah, and we have to thank Allah for granting us this opportunity.
Tell me something in terms of your assistance in aid. So what assistance in aid did you render in terms of resources, PPE resources in it to the Hillside Learning Academy?
So, so with regards to this specific project that we did in conjunction with Salam Media, Ashraful Aid was contacted for certain necessities due to this pandemic and requirements by the government for such a center to open up and accept kids again to come to school. So there's a few things that we distributed to Hillside Academy. And the first thing is we sanitized all the classrooms last week. So we had a team that went in and ensured that they were able to sanitize the classroom for the arrival of the kids. And then today we contributed or distributed masks for the children as well as for the teachers, face shields, sanitizing, the sanitizing stand. So obviously if you've seen it before in shopping malls or so, where you don't need to touch it in order to sanitize yourself, as well as soap and aprons and a few PPE items in order for them to go ahead with learning.
Sister Zakhirah, how did you feel when you received this aid, knowing, you know what, Alhamdulillah, now your children are safe, protected, the environment is sterilized, Alhamdulillah, subhanallah, must have been a dua answered. So now you can focus on the core teaching and learning.
Yeah, I felt relieved really because the service that we provide is indeed needed. The parents needed their children to come back to class so that they can focus on, getting an income. They can focus on working and doing other things that they do on a normal daily basis. So it really became a relief for us, knowing that we can work confidently, knowing that we have the equipment to protect ourselves from this pandemic and also protect the children that we work with. So for me, I feel relieved, and the teachers also, the team that I work with, they feel confident moving forward because remember, this was our first day reopening and fully operating. So we feel confident that we can do this, we can move into the future and teach children, continue teaching children even during these difficult circumstances of COVID-19.
Jazakallah, Sister Zakhirah, and inshallah, as somebody who is in the field and specializes in childhood development, specifically early childhood development, I am going to come with Brother Ponti and want to visit the center and meet with yourself and the young, our leaders here. And Jazakallah to Brother Muhammad Musa. And Brother Muhammad Musa, how can the public assist Ashraful Aid to get involved in projects like this to assist child development centers and other educational related projects?
Okay, so just quickly, a background of Ashraful Aid Shukr. We've now been operating for about 25 years. We distribute needs and requirements to about 135 countries around the world. Like, for example, now we also had the German disaster which occurred, and Alhamdulillah, I mean, the Lebanon disaster which occurred, and Alhamdulillah, even with COVID and with the international travel restrictions, we were able to have a team on the ground in order to assist. So also with Hillside School, the thing is mainly a lot of places get help and they get assistance because maybe they're in a busy area or in the town areas. And this school being in Indonesia, specifically in Indonesia South, we grateful that we were able to help them. Ashraful Aid also, we pride ourselves on helping people to we run projects so that we can upskill people and of course helping people in early childhood kids, young children, for us to help them and to be of assistance for them for their growth and their success is something that's obviously one of the things we base our organization on. So Ashraful Aid helps a lot of schools and a lot of kids around Johannesburg and in many areas in South Africa as well as outside. So if anyone would like to contribute to the projects that we run, inshallah, you can go onto our website and our details are there and contribute towards these projects. And inshallah, we'll be able to assist more schools and more people going forward.
Jazakallah both to you, Sister Zakhirah and Brother Muhammad, for joining us. And really, it's a good news story. At the end of the day, I just feel, Allah knows how to connect everybody and connect our hearts for the upliftment of deen and humanity at large. And, this has been Salam Media's intention as well in terms of humanitarian journalism is to raise an issue and connect people together for the betterment of deen and humanity. So alhamdulillah, it feels so fulfilling and humbling that I also got to be a small part of this connecting and uniting of hearts in service of humanity. So Jazakallah for this, and I'm sure all our listeners have enjoyed this heartwarming good news story. In fact, I've got a message from Abbas, and she says, I love watching you guys. And alhamdulillah, we love to have our listeners watch us. And on the screen, Hillside Learning Academy looks like such a happy, warm place to go out and to learn. Alhamdulillah, if I could do my childhood again, this is definitely a happy place where I cry every day. I want to come to school. Instead of saying I don't want to go to school, I'm looking forward to it. So Jazakallah to both of you for joining us and inspiring us here on Educational Insights, Sister Zakhirah and Brother Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi.
Oh, I feel so inspired by this segment and enlightened. Ziad just come back into the studio engineering there, and he's seeing me smiling, and he's also smiling. So I'm happy I'm making everybody smile, and we feel so warm here and fuzzy here. We're going to go for a short break, and then we're going to be speaking to Sister Amina Saira. She's the founder of Tinker Lab, Tinker Creative Labs, and we're going to be talking about play-based learning programs through the use of coding. So we're talking coding and unpacking what is coding after the break.